Naruto. Reborn as Uchiha Itachi and kill Danzo first. Chapter 61. Illusion, physical skills, ninjutsu, shuriken jutsu, and the power of those eyes, it's really a powerful fighting force. But unfortunately, I can't spare your life. Tendo Pain looked at Uchiha Itachi with cold eyes and said lightly. Really? Uchiha Itachi calmly untied the red cloud cloak that symbolized Akatsuki. Take my life, can you do it? As soon as his voice fell, the next moment, the hungry ghost and the animal rushed towards Uchiha Itachi from both sides at a very fast speed. Uchiha Itachi slowly closed his eyes, and then the moment he raised his eyes again, he entered the sage mode. The cells in his body were actively absorbing the natural chakra around him. When the black sticks of the hungry ghost and the animal stabbed at Uchiha Itachi's body, Uchiha Itachi simply raised his hand and broke the black stick directly. Nani? The hungry ghost and the animal were both shocked at the same time. Uchiha Itachi did not give them a chance to react. He leapt into the air and kicked at the faces of the hungry ghost path and the animal path, directly kicking their bodies away. At this moment, the hellhound that was previously knocked away by Susanoo roared and rushed towards Uchiha Itachi. Its body had split into several pieces, and its size was smaller than before. The animal path then formed a seal again, summoning technique. A huge rhino with a samsara eye was summoned. Next came the buffalo, centipede, antelope, hippopotamus. A series of huge animals were summoned one after another. They roared and rushed towards Uchiha Itachi, and the sound of stomping on the ground was earth-shaking, and the whole ground was shaking. Hee. Zoo tactics. Uchiha Itachi looked at these strange animals and smiled slightly. What a bunch of monsters, then use monsters to defeat monsters. He muttered to himself. As he said that, his hands quickly formed seals. Summoning technique. With a bang, smoke filled the air. When the summoned beasts rushed over, they were about to crush Uchiha Itachi into a meat pie. Then there was a thunderous roar that resounded through the heaven and earth. Roar. It was a dragon roar, and a huge figure emerged from the smoke. His huge dragon body swung, and he directly threw all the summoned beasts away. Uchiha Itachi, are you in trouble so soon? The huge dragon head spoke in human language, and he was the golden python. At this time, Uchiha Itachi stood on the dragon head of the golden python, and he said lightly, these summoned beasts are a bit tricky to deal with, so I summoned you to help. Soga, that's it. The vertical pupils of the golden python flickered, and he looked at the huge figures, and the rippled reincarnation eye was indeed eye-catching. Reincarnation eye. It seems that you have really encountered a strong enemy. The golden python said lightly. On the other side, when Tendao Pain saw the dragon body of the golden python emerge, his expression became more serious. What a joke, it's actually a dragon, there is such a creature in this world. Tendao Pain said to himself indifferently. Seeing this, Shiradao opened his head like a petal, and on his crown was a cannon. The cannon continued to accumulate energy, and the next moment it sprayed a violent shock wave towards the body of the golden python. The golden python's eyes condensed, sensing the energy fluctuations, his huge dragon head opened his mouth, and a dragon breath was sprayed out casually. The two energies collided in the air, causing a violent explosion roar, and thick smoke billowed. The group of summoned beasts that were thrown away by the golden python's body did not dissipate, and attacked the golden python again. Action separately, you deal with them. Uchiha Itachi whispered. Then he jumped off the golden python's dragon head and rushed towards Tendao Pain. Seeing this, Renjiandao and Shiradao stood in front of Tiandao Pain, and a black stick stretched out from Renjiandao's sleeve. Shiradao took off his red cloud cloak and suddenly grew 3 heads and 6 arms. His body was like a killing machine, and various weapons grew out of various parts of his body, which looked quite terrifying. Uchiha Itachi was not afraid at all. In the sage mode, his body had been strengthened and he could take on weapons with his bare hands, which was already a routine operation. He rushed to Renjiandao and Shiradao who were blocking Tiandao Pain, and started to fight with them. In the Sage mode, his perception ability was improved to the extreme, and the pair of Sharingan could slow down the opponent's movements. Fighting, he was at ease. The vision of the Samsara eye between Pain was connected to each other, and all of Uchiha Itachi's moves would be predicted in advance. But what they didn't expect was that in the Sage mode, Uchiha Itachi could control chakra. fourth opponent is hit hard. This kind of attack is invisible, and the opponent's samsara eye cannot see it at all. After several rounds of fighting, Renjiandao and Shiradao were hit by invisible chakra fists, and their bodies flew backwards. Taking this opportunity, Uchiha Itachi flew forward and rushed towards Tiandao Pain. Tiandao Pain looked at Uchiha Itachi indifferently. He did not make any extra movements, but just stretched out a palm. Facing Uchiha Itachi's charge, Tiandao Pain said lightly, "Shinra Tensai." A powerful repulsive force was released from his palm, directly bouncing Uchiha Itachi's body away. The terrifying energy hit Uchiha Itachi, and his body was like a kite with a broken string, rolling in the air, and then hit a mud wall in the distance, smashing a large groove. 1 against 7, Itachi, do you feel the pain? Tiandao Pain looked at the figure trapped in the mud wall and said lightly. But what he didn't expect was that Uchiha Itachi's body suddenly banged, and turned into a puff of smoke and disappeared. What? Shadow clone. Tendo Pain was shocked. At this moment, a pair of hands suddenly stretched out from the foot of Jigokudo, who was standing at the back. Jigokudo was directly pulled into the soil by those hands, leaving only a head on the surface of the soil. Uchiha Itachi got out of the soil, stretched out his hands from both sides, grabbed Jigokudo's neck and broke the neck. With a click, Jigokudo's neck was broken by Uchiha Itachi and died on the spot. Let's deal with your resurrection coin first. Uchiha Itachi smiled and said lightly. Using the summoning beast while creating a shadow clone. You can actually sneak attack under the eyes of the Samsara Eye, Uchiha Itachi, you are really not simple. Tendo Pain looked at Uchiha Itachi and said, his voice was a little cold. At the same time, Shirado Pain fired several missiles at Uchiha Itachi, and a series of explosions resounded through the world, thick smoke billowed, and sand and rocks flew. In the smoke, a quick fire shuriken flew out and attacked Tendo Pain. Tendo Pain slowly raised his right hand and released the repulsive force, and the shuriken was instantly bounced away. Then he released the gravitational force in the direction of the smoke. With a swish, Uchiha Itachi's body was sucked out of the smoke. Seeing this, Shirado Pain quickly moved to the side of Tendo Pain. He grew several sharp blades from his body, and when Uchiha Itachi was sucked over, his entire body was directly pierced by the sharp blades. But what he didn't expect was that the body suddenly turned into a burst of lightning and disappeared directly. Huh. Not good. Tendo Pain's eyelids jumped. I saw that the lightning energy began to become violent and directly began to attack Shirado's body. On the other side of the smoke, Uchiha Itachi raised his left hand, and the lightning followed his left hand. His eyes were cold, and he mobilized chakra to increase power. The next moment, Shirado's body crackled and a burst of smoke came out directly. Shirado's body structure is special, basically composed of machinery. The violent lightning eroded every part of his body, causing his internal structure to short-circuit instantly. Tendo Pain's skill CD is as long as 5 seconds. At this time, he cannot use Shinra Tensai to bounce off the energy of the lightning. In these 5 seconds, the lightning emitted by Uchiha Itachi was enough to completely destroy Shirado's body. Helplessly, Tendo Pain could only retreat to the side. A few seconds later, Shirado's body was completely short-circuited, and sparks came out of his body. The next moment, there was a boom, and an explosion sounded, and Shirado's body was directly blown into several pieces. How can he have such a strong thunder shield skill? According to the intelligence, he does not have thunder attribute chakra. Tiandao Pain was puzzled. At this time, at the other end of the battle, the golden python was facing many strange summoned beasts and had the upper hand. Except for the split dog, which could not be eliminated in a short time, the other summoned beasts were easy to deal with. Animal Path Pain looked at the summoned beasts that were constantly being eliminated, and could only continue to seal and summon the summoned beasts, trying to suppress them with the human C tactics. But the golden python didn't care, and did not use his full strength, just dealing with the summoned beasts there, dawdling. Working without effort. At present, there are only 4 people left in the 6 paths Pain. The figures of the human path and the hungry ghost path rushed over and stood behind Tiandao Pain, forming a simple triangle formation. At present, the animal path and the golden python are facing each other. The ones who are really capable of fighting are Heavenly Path Pain and the Hungry Ghost Path. The threat of the human path to me can be ignored. The opponent has the Samsara Eye, and the illusion attack of the Goddess of the Sky is ineffective. Amaterasu can be absorbed by the Hungry Ghost Path. Susanoo is too big a target and can be easily defeated by Heavenly Path Pain's Shinra Tensai. The power of the tailed beast on the body cannot be exposed. It seems that I can only use the fairy arts that I am not familiar with to fight against it. It's a pity that I only learned 2 simple moves from the Golden Python. Uchiha Itachi thought to himself. He put his hands together, and countless natural chakras gathered towards him. The next moment, he saw a pair of dragon horns growing on his forehead, and the skin of his body was also covered with dragon scales. What is this? Heavenly Path Pain narrowed his eyes slightly, his expression began to become solemn, and a sense of uneasiness surged in his heart. Ah! Then, Uchiha Itachi shouted, and a powerful energy exploded from his body, turning into thunder and lightning that crackled beside his body, and he clasped his hands together. Senjutsu Thunder Dragon Break. As soon as this shout came out, the violent thunder and lightning suddenly turned into a thunder dragon, and the thunder dragon twisted its body and went directly in the direction of Tendo Pain. Lightning and flint passed all the way, and a deep mark was rolled up on the rocks on the ground. Hungry Ghost Road looked at the huge thunder dragon attacking, dodged in front of Tendo Pain, and stretched out his hands, using his ability to absorb ninjutsu to dissolve this move. When the Thunder Dragon attacked, it stopped beside Hungry Ghost Road's hand. The violent thunder and lightning power was gradually absorbed by the power of Hungry Ghost Road. Uchiha Itachi's expression changed, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. This is not an ordinary ninjutsu, but a fairy technique that contains a lot of natural power. Uchiha Itachi was secretly delighted. Under the cover of the lightning, he also output a large amount of natural chakra at the same time. As long as the hungry ghost absorbs the nap chakra along the lightning, the body will definitely not be able to bear it. Myoboku Mountain's Sage Mode. If you absorb too much natural chakra, you will turn into a frog or even petrify if you can't control it. If the Sage Mode of Ryachi Cave can't be controlled, it may cause the practitioner to lose his mind, become crazy, and go crazy. As expected, after Hungry Ghost Road absorbed a large amount of natural chakra, his body suddenly became uncontrollable, began to swell, and grew strange spikes. The next moment he was like a madman, out of control, and began to get agitated. Seeing this, Uchiha Itachi increased the output power. After a few seconds, Hungry Ghost Road's body was stretched bigger and bigger, and then exploded directly and broke into pieces. The expression of Tendo Pain became more and more solemn, and he couldn't figure out the situation at all. He didn't understand the fairy art yet, and he didn't know how Uchiha Itachi did it. This is the importance of intelligence. Uchiha Itachi knows the ability of each of the 6 paths Pain. But Pain didn't know Uchiha Itachi at this time. This is not a regular trick. Uchiha Itachi hasn't even used the skills of the Sharingan. The Hungry Ghost Path is dead. Let's see how you take this move. Uchiha Itachi muttered to himself. Then his Sharingan changed, and tears of blood flowed from the corners of his eyes. Amaterasu. He launched Amaterasu at the human path behind him, and a ball of black flames directly covered the whole body of the human path. Ah! With a strange cry, the human path began to struggle in pain. What? Tendo Pain was shocked. He stretched out his hand to use Shinra Tensai on the human path to bounce off the black flame attached to the human path. And at the moment when he lost consciousness, Uchiha Itachi's right eye Kamui was launched. Kamiu. The Kamui was launched towards Tendo Pain's head, trying to break Tendo Pain's head. Not good. Tendo Pain was shocked. And at this moment, Uchiha Obito appeared. He used Kamui on Tendo Pain. The power of the 2 Kamui offset each other, and Tendo Pain was saved. Obito looked at Uchiha Itachi with a cold look in his eyes. Uchiha Itachi, you actually know my secret, that I finally showed up. Uchiha Obito. Uchiha Itachi spoke slowly, and the red Sharingan seemed to be flashing. This is. When Obito saw Uchiha Itachi's eyes, his pupils suddenly shrank. How could it be? The 2 Mangekyo Sharingan have different patterns, and they are not the same eyes as before. Before Uchiha Itachi joined the Akatsuki organization, he had fought with Obito. So Obito remembered the pattern of Uchiha Itachi's Mangekyo Sharingan. You transplanted two different Mangekyo Sharingan to your own eyes. I'm afraid only Orochimaru can do this. Uchiha Itachi, you actually hooked up with that guy Orochimaru. Uchiha Obito's voice was shocked. The pattern on the left eye, could it be Uchiha Shisui's Mangekyo Sharingan? Uchiha Obito was sweating profusely. Uchiha Shisui was famous. Obito had collected information about him and knew the special pattern of his Mangekyo Sharingan. At the same time, Koto Amatsukami is also one of his most feared eye techniques, which can change other people's will without being noticed. This skill is too buggy. At this time, Obito was highly alert and ready to use Izanami at any time. As long as Uchiha Itachi's left eye moved, he would immediately use Izanami to change the ending. The use of Koto Amatsukami would consume a lot of chakra. He believed that Uchiha Itachi would not use Koto Amatsukami easily, otherwise when he was exhausted, Tendo Pain would kill him immediately. But what he didn't know was that at this time, Uchiha Itachi, Koto Amatsukami with his left eye was different from Koto Amatsukami with his right eye used for Orochimaru. Koto Amatsukami with his right eye can permanently change people's will without being noticed, and the skill CD is as long as 110 years. Koto Amatsukami with his left eye can only temporarily control other people's will. Although the skill CD is short, the spell can be easily interrupted by others. This skill is only suitable for 1 versus 1, or in cooperation with teammates. It will not have a key effect in a one-to-many situation. Therefore, Uchiha Itachi did not intend to use Koto Amatsukami on Obito. Without anyone to protect him, Koto Amatsukami could be easily interrupted by Tendo Pain. Uchiha Itachi did not explain to Obito's question. He simply made a seal with his hands, and his figure disappeared in an instant. Swish! Uchiha Itachi's figure suddenly appeared beside Obito, and the kunai in his hand stabbed towards Obito's head. What? Obito was surprised. Instant body technique. In a hurry, Uchiha Obito's figure became virtual, and the kunai went straight through his head. While getting Shisui's eyes, Uchiha Itachi also inherited Shisui's instant body technique. Seeing the kunai piercing Obito's head, Uchiha Itachi released Kamui with his right eye at the same time. He threw a kunai into Kamui with his other hand, and the end of the kunai was tied with a detonating talisman. The next moment, in the Kamui space, the detonating talisman exploded. With a bang, smoke came out of Obito's head. He staggered back a few steps, and the mask on his head was blown into several pieces and fell off. Seeing this, Tiandao immediately raised his hand to release Shinra Tensai. With a swoosh, Uchiha Itachi's body was directly ejected dozens of meters away. Fortunately, Uchiha Itachi's body was strengthened by suppuration and was very strong. With the blessing of the Sage Mode, he did not suffer any substantial damage. After doing several backflips in the air, Uchiha Itachi landed with a very handsome move. Obito was panting, and blood was flowing from his forehead. His physical fitness was also extraordinary. He had Hashirama cells in his body, and his wounds could heal quickly. You even know the characteristics of Kamui, Uchiha Itachi. How many secrets do you know about me? Obito's tone was cold, and his eyes were fixed on Uchiha Itachi. He was not one-eyed, and his missing eye had already been transplanted with other Sharingan. Uchiha Itachi smiled and said nothing in the face of Obito's questioning. He thought to himself, I know your script too well. He simply dusted off his body and formed a seal with both hands. Fire style. Great fire extinguishment. Uchiha Itachi learned the trick from Madara. There are many seals of the technique in Kishimoto's official book, and he has studied them a lot before. Under the blessing of the fairy technique, the effect of the fire style he released is the same as that of Uchiha Madara. The range of the technique is very large. A B-level ninjutsu releases the effect of an S-level ninjutsu. It's useless. Tendo Pain said coldly. He raised his hand and used a Shinra Tensai, which directly bounced off the huge flame. Uchiha Itachi smiled slightly. He just used this technique to launch a feint attack, intending to consume the CD of Tendo Pain's Shinra Tensai. Only seeing that the seals of his hands changed, his body disappeared instantly, and he used the instant body technique again. This time he instantly appeared behind Tendo Pain, and directly knocked Pain away with a swinging fist. Then his body followed, and before Tendo Pain could stabilize his body, he swung his fists and kept falling on Tendo Pain's body. Bang, bang, it was a violent beating. Tendo Pain could only block his hands in front of his head and passively take the beating. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The CD of Shinra Tensai's skill was cooled down, and Tendo Pain shouted again. Shinra Tensai. Uchiha Itachi's hand stopped the action just as he was about to swing his fist, and his body was bounced out again. His hands crossed in front of his head, and he was bounced dozens of meters away again. This time he was hit by this big move at close range, and after being bounced away, he spit out a mouthful of blood. It's worthy of being a technique that can blow up the entire Konoha. It's so powerful. Uchiha Itachi sighed in his heart. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and the wounds on his body began to heal automatically. After the baptism of the dragon pool, his body not only became stronger, but also had a recovery ability comparable to Hashirama. At this moment, countless white papers flew towards him. This is. Uchiha Itachi was shocked. Before he could react, the paper directly wrapped Uchiha Itachi's body like a dumpling. Runes were written on the paper, and they were all densely packed with detonating runes. Then a series of explosions sounded, and a sea of fire formed around, and thick smoke billowed. When the smoke dissipated, a huge figure emerged, and Uchiha Itachi activated Susanoo. Xiaonan was like an angel, her paper pieces formed into wings and floated in the air. When she saw Uchiha Itachi's figure, she launched ninjutsu again. Paper shuriken technique. The countless pieces of paper floating around Xiaonan automatically folded into the shape of shurikens. She waved her left hand, and countless paper shurikens flew towards Uchiha Itachi. These pieces of paper were detonating talismans, and the chain of explosions was unbearable for anyone. Uchiha Itachi's Sharingan had seen the clues, and he quickly formed seals with both hands and sprayed flames from his mouth. Fire style. Great fireball technique. Countless pieces of paper collided with the fireball halfway, making a series of roaring explosions. The explosion sound had not yet ended, and Xiaonan's other ninjutsu was about to attack. Paper rain. Countless pieces of paper were like sharp blades, about to fall towards Uchiha Itachi. At this time, Uchiha Itachi was still spewing flames from his mouth, and he had no time to care about other things. His left eye moved and launched Kotoamatsukami on Xiaonan. The next moment, Xiaonan's body stiffened, and the paper that was about to fall stopped instantly. Uchiha Obito saw the clue and shouted loudly. Xiaonan, be careful of his pupil technique. But it was too late at this time. Xiaonan's mind had been completely controlled by Uchiha Itachi. She raised her left hand and waved it in the direction of Tendo Pain. Countless pieces of paper that stayed in the air changed their direction and attacked Tendo Pain. Tendo Pain saw this and raised his hand to use Shinra Tensai, easily flicking the paper away. Uchiha Obito took the opportunity to seal. Fire style. Storm dance. A huge flame burst out from his Kamui Sharingan and attacked Uchiha Itachi. Uchiha Itachi's eyes condensed and he showed the Yasukami to block in front of him. The flames hit the Yasukami and split into two forks, unable to break the defense. Seeing this, Tendo Pain raised his hand and used the Tensai Tenjin. The huge gravitational force locked onto Uchiha Itachi's body, trying to suck him out of Susanoo. The larger the target, the greater the gravitational force, and Uchiha Itachi knew this truth well. He released Susanoo and used Kamui towards Tendo Pain. This Kamui was aimed at Tendo Pain's raised left hand, trying to twist his entire arm off. On Tendo Pain's left hand, a vortex formed. Uchiha Obito saw this and hurriedly used the Kamui skill. The two forces collided and cancelled each other out. Kotoamatsukami in Xiaonan was interrupted, and she broke away from Uchiha Itachi's control. She released the rain of paper again and attacked in the direction of Uchiha Itachi. Countless pieces of paper fell, and Uchiha Itachi used the instant body technique to teleport to another direction and escaped. The two sides formed a 3-to-1 situation, with three big bosses in the Hokage fighting against Uchiha Itachi alone. Uchiha Itachi, you are really amazing. You are proficient in all kinds of ninjutsu, eye techniques, and physical techniques. You must die here today. Tiandao Pain looked at Uchiha Itachi's figure and said lightly. Then he stretched out his hand and condensed a small black ball in his palm, and the small ball slowly floated into the sky. Mashaka, could it be? Xiaonan saw this and was shocked. Pain, you can't use this trick, it will shorten your life. Xiaonan, be quiet for a while, let me concentrate. If Uchiha Itachi is not completely eradicated, we will not be able to sleep or eat. Tiandao Pain spoke coldly, then he clasped his hands together and uttered a few words. Chibaku Tensai. BGM sounded. The small ball floated high in the sky, emitting a dazzling light. The next moment, the rock under Uchiha Itachi's feet cracked. A huge attraction caused the rocks and soil on the ground to fly towards the black ball in the sky. Uchiha Itachi's body was of course not spared. The huge rock under his feet rose from the ground and flew into the air. His body was unstable, swaying left and right to keep his balance. It is worthy of being the Chibaku Tensai, it has such a strong gravitational force. Uchiha Itachi sighed in his heart. But the moment he saw the black ball, he had a plan in his mind. Any ninjutsu has its shortcomings, and the divine art of Chibaku Tensai is no exception. When his body floated in the air, Susanoo appeared. Uchiha Itachi roared in the direction of the Golden Python. Golden Python, use Dragon Breath to attack the black sphere in the sky. The Golden Python has a keen hearing. When he heard Uchiha Itachi's words, he looked up at the black sphere in the sky. The black ball exuded the power of the six paths, which made him vaguely afraid. He gathered energy in his mouth and blew a dragon's breath towards the small ball. Seeing this, Uchiha Itachi controlled Susanoo to condense a chakra at the same time. 8-plate Magatama. Two huge energies attacked the small ball in the sky at the same time. The next moment, a devastating explosion sounded. The Chibaku Tensai was detonated by two energies in the air, and countless rocks and soil were blown everywhere. The Chibaku Tensai of Tendo Pain was forcibly cracked, and his body trembled slightly. Obviously, this attack caused him a lot of backlash. Xiaonan and Uchiha Obito were also shaken by the sudden explosion and were unstable. They looked at Uchiha Itachi in surprise, and their hearts were full of disbelief. I didn't expect that you could crack my Chibaku Tensai. Tendo Pain's voice came from a distance, and his voice was slightly tired. The Chibaku Tensai had consumed a lot of his chakra, and all his big moves had entered CD and could not be used again in a short time. Uchiha Itachi's body fell from the air, he patted the dust on his body, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. It seems that I can only use that trick. Uchiha Obito narrowed his eyes and quickly formed seals with his hands. Summoning technique. A huge golem rose from the ground. He looked strange and his hands were tightly locked with a pair of handcuffs. Roar. The moment he was summoned, the outer path golem broke free from the handcuffs and roared. He stepped on the ground, the boulders collapsed, and the huge roar resounded through the world, shaking the air to see the ripples of sound waves. Finally appeared the body of the Ten-Tail. Uchiha Itachi looked at this spectacular scene and sighed in his heart. At this time, the outer path golem was not just an empty shell, it absorbed the power of the two tails and the five tails. The moment he appeared, the power of the two-tailed beasts in Uchiha Itachi's body began to fluctuate. Alas, there is no way. Uchiha Itachi sighed. The opponent even took out the bottom of the box, so this battle had to be stopped. He said to the three of them calmly, no more fighting, no more fighting. It's not time to fight you yet. How about we stop this battle? Uchiha Obito narrowed his eyes slightly. Want to escape? Not so easy. He controlled the outer path statue and was about to attack Uchiha Itachi. At this time, Uchiha Itachi made a stop gesture and said, I know that Pain's body should be at 12 o'clock, 1 kilometer away. What if I go over and kill him now? Under the perception of the sage mode, Uchiha Itachi already knew clearly where Nagato was hiding. What? Xiaonan heard, her pupils suddenly contracted, and she was frightened and sweated. Uchiha Obito also stopped controlling the outer path statue. Uchiha Itachi knew clearly the direction of Nagato, which they had to guard against. In that case, let's call a truce. Seeing that they did not move, Uchiha Itachi waved goodbye to them and his figure gradually disappeared. Seeing this, the golden python also disappeared with a bang. Water style. Water dragon bullet. In a forest, it had just rained. The ground was wet with small puddles. Two ninjas formed seals with each other, and water dragons were wrapped around their bodies, attacking each other. The two water dragons were entangled and biting each other, and it was difficult to tell who would win. They both had their own weapons, one holding a beheading sword, and the other holding a thick iron rod wrapped in bandages. The one holding the beheading sword was Biwa Juzo, and the other was Hoshigaki Kisame. Hoshigaki Kisame had just killed his boss, Ziguashan Pufferfish Demon, and got the weapon of the seven ninjas, Samahata. He was about to defect from the village, but was stopped by Biwa Juzo. Biwa Juzo became the personal bodyguard of the 4th Mizukage after escorting the 4th Mizukage Yagura back to the village. This was a mission arranged by the Akatsuki organization, to place him in the Hidden Mist village, and together with the 4th Mizukage Yagura who was controlled by Obito with his eye technique, to control the land of water. Today, Kisame defected from the village, and Biwa Juzo came to intercept him. Kisame and Biwa Juzo looked at each other with sharp eyes. The air around them was filled with water vapor, and the atmosphere was extremely tense. As expected of one of the seven ninja swordsmen, Biwa Juzo, do you really want to block my way? Kisame looked at Biwa Juzo and smiled. Biwa Juzo scratched his ear holes and said calmly, to be honest, as a fellow ninja from the Hidden Mist village, I don't want to fight you either. This is just a mission. Soga, is that so? Kisame's eyes became cold. Is it a mission given by the 4th Mizukage? No, Biwa Juzo shook his head. If it was a mission given by the 4th Mizukage, I wouldn't have come here alone. So which camp do you belong to? I heard that you also defected from the village. I didn't expect you to come back safely and without any punishment. It's really surprising to think about it. Kisame said. Yes, Biwa Juzo sighed, even you can see it, but the high-ranking officials in the village ignored my affairs in order to check and balance the power of various factions. When Hoshigaki Kisame heard this, his eyes condensed. He thought for a while and said, are you a double agent? No, Biwa Juzo shook his finger and smiled. Actually, I am a triple agent. As soon as he finished speaking, a figure slowly walked out of the jungle. The figure gradually became clear, his eyes were bright and moving, and there were 3 magatama in his red pupils. Uchiha Itachi stepped on the muddy road and slowly walked to Biwa Juzo's side. Soga, I see those eyes, are they from the Uchiha clan? So you have already defected to Konoha. Kisame looked at Uchiha Itachi's appearance, and his pupils suddenly shrank. His expression became cold and he was ready to fight. The Hidden Mist village is known as the Blood Mist City. The village has been closed for a long time and did not know about Uchiha Itachi's defection. As a ninja of the Hidden Mist village, Kisame thought of Biwa Juzo's betrayal when he saw Uchiha Itachi appear. This behavior made him very ashamed. No, although I am a member of the Uchiha clan, I am no longer a ninja of Konoha. Just like your current defection, I am also a person like you. Uchiha Itachi spoke lightly and explained. Really? After hearing what Uchiha Itachi said, Kisame did not relax his vigilance. Blocking my way, what is your purpose? Uchiha Itachi looked at his cold eyes, and then said. Kisame Hoshigaki, you have been carrying out dirty tasks for your country and village. Kill your companions, kill your superiors, as long as it is a mission, you can kill anyone. But have you ever thought about whether these people are enemies or friends, and what is the meaning of your existence? The meaning of my existence. Kisame Hoshigaki thought, when I killed the watermelon mountain pufferfish, I only felt the existence of lies. I don't know which camp one belonged to, and I don't even know my position. Then let me free you from the pain of lies. Uchiha Itachi said, and his Sharingan moved. The next moment, the picture of the 4th Mizukage being controlled by Obito appeared in Kisame's mind. When scenes flashed through his mind, Kisame was shocked at first, and then he accepted the reality. His expression became relaxed, as if he was relieved after knowing the truth. Soga, I see, it turns out that the 4th Mizukage has long been controlled by the Sharingan. It turns out that this world is full of lies. But who is the person who has the power to control the 4th Mizukage, the Jinchuriki? Is it your leader? You are wrong again. Uchiha Itachi shook his head. That person is Uchiha Madara, my rival. What? Kisame's pupils suddenly dilated, his face full of disbelief. What did you say? That adult has already passed away. Such a lie is unbelievable. I didn't lie to you. Who else in this world has the eye technique to control Jinchuriki besides him? Uchiha Itachi said lightly. Hoshigaki Kisame was stunned for a moment. After thinking for a moment, he began to believe this statement. If it is really that adult as you said, then what is your purpose in being his enemy? Peace. Uchiha Itachi spoke lightly. Then he recounted Uchiha Madara's moon plan to Kisame. At the same time, he also explained his determination to prevent this disaster. He also wanted to unify the ninja world, establish a new country, and make this cruel ninja world achieve true peace. Kisame listened to Uchiha Itachi's explanation. His expression was uncertain. He fell into deep thought, and his heart could not calm down for a long time. After thinking for several minutes, he finally spoke. Your ambition is not small. You want to overthrow the entire ninja world and establish a new system. Let's not talk about how you can do it. Do you have the strength to be the enemy of that adult? Strength. Uchiha Itachi looked at Kisame, and the red Sharingan began to change. You will know if you try it. Then let me test your strength. Kisame said as he quickly formed seals with both hands. His hand speed after being single for 30 years was so fast that people could not see the afterimage of his fingers. Water style. Rain 4 sharks. He shouted loudly and slapped his palm towards the puddle below. The next moment, the water surface of the small puddle surged, and a water column shot up into the sky and fell towards Uchiha Itachi's figure. When the water column fell, the water separated into 4 shark shapes. The shark opened its bloody mouth, revealing its fierce fangs, as if it was going to rush down and tear Uchiha Itachi's body into pieces. Uchiha Itachi calmly showed 4 kunai, and he casually threw them at the 4 sharks and shot them out. The kunai were all connected with detonating talismans. When the kunai collided with the sharks, the detonating talismans detonated, making a series of explosions. The 4 sharks were instantly blown into water splashes and fell from the air. Hee. Kisame Hoshigaki smiled when he saw this. His hand seals changed, and the falling water suddenly turned into small sharks. The small sharks were densely packed, falling like rain, attacking Uchiha Itachi's body. Uchiha Itachi was stunned and wanted to dodge. But Kisame Hoshigaki sneered and said, Haha, if you want to dodge them all, I'm afraid you can't do it even if you have the Sharingan. The small sharks that fell like raindrops cut Uchiha Itachi's clothes. They fell on his skin, cutting Uchiha Itachi's body like a knife. Although the damage was not great, the dense falling had already made Uchiha Itachi's skin covered with bruises. Kisame Hoshigaki saw this, sneered, raised his same muscle and rushed up. He swung Samahata into the air and chopped down Uchiha Itachi's body with great force. But the next moment, Samahata actually passed through Uchiha Itachi's body. Uchiha Itachi's body suddenly turned into a flock of crows and flew away. Dokujutsu. As expected of the Uchiha clan with the Sharingan. Kisame looked at the scene and muttered to himself. He secretly formed a seal to release the illusion. After the flock of crows flew away, they gathered in the air. Then Uchiha Itachi's figure appeared in the air. Kisame's eyelids jumped and he felt the presence of Uchiha Itachi behind him. He shouted loudly, turned around and swung Samahata to attack Uchiha Itachi. Uchiha Itachi held a kunai to resist. With a clang, the kunai collided with Samahata, making a metal collision sound and sparks flying. Ha! When the two weapons collided, Kisame increased the strength of his hands. He swung the rubber muscle hard and directly knocked Uchiha Itachi's body out. Uchiha Itachi did several beautiful somersaults in the air. After stabilizing his body, he stepped on the ground and rushed towards Kisame again. The two fought hand to hand, using physical skills to test each other. After several rounds of fighting, the kunai and Samahata collided, and the two confronted each other. Hee. Kisame laughed coldly and said coldly, Boy, your skills are really good, but this is far from enough. As soon as he finished speaking, the bandage wrapped around Samahata suddenly broke, and Samahata seemed to have life and grew long thorns. Uchiha Itachi's eyes condensed and he quickly stepped back a few steps. My Samahata is also very excited. Kisame said lightly. Then he inserted the gelatinous muscle into the ground and used the hand speed of 30 years of singleness to quickly seal. Water style. Water shark bullet technique. A stream of water turned into a giant shark, roaring and rushing towards Uchiha Itachi. Uchiha Itachi saw this and formed a seal with both hands. Fire style. Great fireball technique. A huge fireball spewed out of his mouth. When the fireball collided with the shark, there was a violent explosion. In an instant, a large amount of water was evaporated, and the surroundings were filled with water vapor. Everything around became blurred, and the water vapor blocked the vision. The next moment, Uchiha Itachi appeared behind Kisame, holding a kunai and holding it at Kisami's neck. "It's over, Mr. Kisame," Uchiha Itachi said lightly. A smile appeared on Kisami's lips, and he was not panicked. As expected, if it is the Sharingan, it can capture a faint afterimage even in the thick fog, and then attack from behind. Although I want to praise you, I made a prediction in advance. As soon as the voice fell, Kisami's body suddenly turned into a pool of water. Did you anticipate it, so you used the water clone in advance? Uchiha Itachi's eyes were cold. The next moment, Kisame appeared from behind Uchiha Itachi. He placed Samahata on Uchiha Itachi's shoulder and said with a smile, "Unfortunately, your movements have been seen through by me." "Really?" Uchiha Itachi smiled. What if I said I predicted your prediction?" Quote. Huh. Kisame was stunned when he heard it. What he didn't expect was that Uchiha Itachi's body suddenly banged and turned into a ball of white smoke. What? Shadow clone. Kisami's forehead was covered with cold sweat. Kisame looked around vigilantly, trying to find Uchiha Itachi's true body. The next moment, several shurikens attacked him. Kisame noticed it and blocked it directly with Samahata. Uchiha Itachi's figure suddenly appeared, and he waved his kunai to attack Kisame again. The two of them fought again with weapons in hand. Hey, is this really okay? He will be so angry if he finds out. Biwa Juzo watched Kisame waving Samahata in the air and felt amused. He thought to himself, it's a good thing that he didn't fight with this pervert, otherwise he would be the one dancing awkwardly there. It doesn't matter, wait until he's tired, otherwise he won't be convinced to follow us. Uchiha Itachi, who was standing aside, said. That's right, Biwa Juzo nodded, it's a bit tiring, but the good thing is that you won't get hurt, but it's a little hurt to your self-esteem. In the illusion, Kisame and Uchiha Itachi fought for 300 rounds. His body was already tired, and he was breathing heavily. I didn't expect you to be so difficult, let's use this number to decide the winner next. Kisami's eyes were cold, and he put his hands together and the water column around him rushed into the sky. He changed the seals of his hands. Water escape. Great Samadan technique. Quote. A large number of water columns gathered to form a huge shark. The shark was several feet long, and it opened its bloody mouth and bit towards Uchiha Itachi. Uchiha Itachi formed seals with his hands and spurted out flames again. Fire style. Flame dragon technique. The flames formed a huge fire dragon, which meandered towards the huge shark. When the fire dragon and the shark collided, there was no explosion. The shark formed by water unilaterally devoured the fire dragon's flames. Kisame sneered and muttered to himself, this big shark bullet is not a simple ninjutsu. It can devour the chakra of other people and then turn it into its own power to become more and more powerful. As soon as he finished speaking, the huge shark devoured the body of the fire dragon and expanded several times. The next moment, the shark opened its bloody mouth and revealed its fangs, and directly tore Uchiha Itachi's body into pieces. Humph, it's over. Quote. Kisame put away his palm that was releasing the jutsu, and he was about to leave with Samahata on his shoulder. Suddenly, a white light flashed in his eyes, and 2 rounds of applause rang out. Excellent, wonderful, really wonderful. Uchiha Itachi and Biwa Juzo smiled and praised. Kisame was stunned, turned around and saw the figures of the 2 people. For a moment, he was stunned on the spot, and cold sweat ran down his face. Could it be that just now was? He stared blankly at Uchiha Itachi's eyes, and his heart was frightened. After a while of silence, he gritted his teeth and said, so all this is your eye technique? Yes. Uchiha Itachi smiled. Mr. Kisame, can you join us now? Art is explosion, snap. Boom. A series of explosions roared, and rows of houses and buildings collapsed. A smile appeared on Deidara's lips. After defecting from the Hidden Earth village, Deidara completely let himself go. He began to help some rebellious forces to create a series of terrorist explosions. Such a high-profile approach was, on the one hand, to earn extra money so that he could gain a foothold in the ninja world. On the other hand, it was to promote his own art. For him, art is explosion. The explosion and destruction at that moment, like fireworks, fascinated him deeply. This time he received a task from a special organization to carry out a terrorist attack on the border of the land of fields. Use explosions to destroy some special buildings, thereby causing commotion. At this time, he had not joined any force, and the tasks he accepted were completely out of his own heart. As long as he was in a good mood and the reward was high, he would take as many demolition jobs as he could. Many of the border defense bunkers built by Orochimaru according to Uchiha Itachi were blown up by Deidara in the past few days. The news was sent back to the base, giving Orochimaru a headache. Deidara's whereabouts are uncertain and he is very powerful. The garrison ninjas arranged at the border are no match for him. If this continues, it may cause greater unrest. The new regime that has just been established will have a great loss of public credibility. In the secret room of the base, Uchiha Itachi was meeting with Orochimaru and his group to discuss the establishment and planning of the village. At this time, a masked ninja approached and interrupted the meeting. He handed the secret report in his hand to Orochimaru, which recorded Deidara's recent actions and the casualties caused by the destruction of the border. Orochimaru took the secret report and quickly glanced at it, and immediately frowned. It seems that the task of catching terrorists he arranged before did not work. What's wrong? Orochimaru. Uchiha Itachi looked at Orochimaru's serious expression and asked. Orochimaru did not speak, but handed the secret report in his hand to Uchiha Itachi. Uchiha Itachi took it and began to read it quickly. An explosion occurred at the border. The instigator of the terrorist incident was a member of the Land of Earth Blast team, Demolition Boy Deidara. Uchiha Itachi muttered to himself while looking at the secret report. Itachi-kun, the turmoil at the border has been going on for a while. None of the ninjas sent to stop the incident survived. I think the other party's strength is also quite impressive. Otherwise, I will go there myself this time. Orochimaru said. No, Uchiha Itachi shook his head. He had made up his mind. You still have important things to do. I'll go. Kisame, come with me. At the border of the Land of Earth, in an empty temple, Deidara admired the statues inside alone. Because he blew up the entrance of the temple, the monks in the temple all fled in panic. Deidara admired the statues in the temple and sighed. This statue is so lifelike that it can be called a work of art. But the real art is explosion. Only by blowing it up can art be sublimated to a higher level. While admiring the statue, Deidara took out the detonating clay and prepared to leave his masterpiece on the statue. Just as Deidara was about to start, he suddenly felt a strong chakra fluctuation. Uchiha Itachi and Kisame came uninvited and slowly walked into the temple. This kid looks quite energetic, but he looks like a short-lived ghost. I'm afraid he won't live long. Kisame's cold voice sounded. Hey, who are you? How dare you show up in front of me so arrogantly? Deidara said with some dissatisfaction as Uchiha Itachi and Kisame approached. But no one paid attention to him. Kisame continued to say to Uchiha Itachi, do you want me to kill him? This guy has really caused a lot of trouble. No need, Uchiha Itachi shook his head, his ability is very useful. I plan to subdue him and use him for my own benefit. The conversation between the two caused strong dissatisfaction in Deidara. You dare to ignore me? I will blow you to pieces. As he said, he put his hand into the clay bag. Wait, I have something to ask you. Uchiha Itachi saw this and said lightly, you are the one who used explosions to create terrorist incidents in this area. As a rebel ninja, what is your purpose? Purpose. So that's it. It seems that you are also here to arrest me. Deidara sneered, I don't have any purpose. I was just entrusted by someone to cause the explosion and use my work to realize art. The real art is explosion. Really? Haha. What a rebellious kid. Quote. Hearing this, Hoshigaki Kisame took off the samahata on his shoulder and was about to attack. He said, are you done? Brat, a brat like you needs to be taught a lesson. Forget it, Kisame, to avoid getting hurt, let me do it. Uchiha Itachi stopped Kisame's action. As soon as he finished speaking, his eyelids slightly raised. A pair of scarlet Sharingan appeared with 3 Magatama. At this time, Deidara had already pinched a clay bird in his hand, and he threw it in the direction of Uchiha Itachi. You dare to look down on me, feel the art. Deidara shouted. The clay bird quickly approached Uchiha Itachi. Uchiha Itachi quickly retreated, and the clay bird seemed to have life, constantly tracking Uchiha Itachi's figure. When the clay flew to Uchiha Itachi's side, Deidara smiled. Quote. With a bang, the clay bird was detonated by Deidara. A huge ball of flames and smoke rose up instantly, covering Uchiha Itachi. Deidara laughed wildly. Ha ha ha, how is it? How is my art? But when the smoke dissipated, Uchiha Itachi's figure emerged again, and he said lightly, not very good. Deidara gritted his teeth when he heard it, but the next moment he smiled, and he had a backup plan. Under Uchiha Itachi's feet, a clay centipede slowly crawled towards his body, and in an instant it wrapped around Uchiha Itachi's body. So arrogant, is this all you have? Deidara said with a sneer. The next moment he made a seal with both hands and was about to detonate the clay centipede. It's over. At this time, Uchiha Itachi said lightly, you should take a good look at your own body. Quote. Deidara was stunned when he heard this. Itachi's Sharingan made him lose his mind for a moment. After a moment, he reacted. At this time, he saw that the clay centipede was entangled with him. If he had just detonated it, the consequences would be disastrous. What? Deidara was shocked and sweated. Hee. It was so dangerous. He almost exploded. Kisami's teasing voice came. Is it an illusion? When was it? Deidara looked at the clay centipede entangled with him and muttered to himself. From the moment you saw Itachi's Sharingan, you were in an illusion. Kisame explained. How could it be? Deidara was a little unbelievable. He looked at Uchiha Itachi. The red Sharingan seemed to be shining, and he was stunned on the spot. At this time, Uchiha Itachi's figure was like a god in his eyes. Deidara widened his eyes and stared at his Sharingan. So beautiful. This is art. Then are you willing to join us? Uchiha Itachi's voice sounded like the call of God. With the joining of Deidara, the Jackdaw organization was initially formed, with members including leader Uchiha Itachi, Biwa Juzo, Orochimaru, Hoshigaki Kisame, Deidara, and a giant dragon. After a period of hard struggle, a new country was established, and the entire divided country of fields was reunified. The slavery system of the old era was abolished, and Uchiha Itachi established a new village and named it Qianlong Village. During this period, the forces between countries were disrupted, and the Akatsuki organization controlled the fourth generation of Mizukage Yagura to form an alliance between the Water Country and the Rain Country. After the turmoil and bloody suppression, the two countries almost merged into one, and actually formed a new country controlled by the Akatsuki organization. While the Fire Country Konoha seemed calm, in fact, there was a serious internal struggle. The Uchiha clan returned to the political center, which aroused the dissatisfaction of other clans. The third generation of Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen is still implementing his doctrine of the mean. Using the small frictions between the clans, the development of the Uchiha clan is constantly suppressed. Due to internal disharmony, Konoha has become the weakest among the 5 major countries. In order to maintain the corresponding peace, Konoha signed various unequal peace treaties with various countries. On this day, in the new base, Uchiha Itachi held a meeting with everyone. Uchiha Itachi analyzed the current situation to everyone. The situation in various countries is turbulent now, and the delicate balance seems to be broken. According to the intelligence received so far, all countries are showing signs of being ready to move. Among the 5 major countries, the Water Country has been annexed by the Akatsuki organization. In recent years, the Thunder Country and the Earth Country are the strongest and have signs of expanding outward. After annexing the Water Country, the Akatsuki organization continued to hide its strength. They wanted to fan the flames and cause wars between countries, so that they could benefit from it and finally implement their own moon plan. So what we have to do is to disrupt Akatsuki's plan. We have to provoke disputes between Akatsuki and other countries, let the 4 major countries form an alliance and confront Akatsuki. So what should we do? Hoshigaki Kisame asked. Uchiha Itachi nodded to Orochimaru, who understood and took out several sets of clothes. This is the specific clothing of the Akatsuki organization. All we have to do is put on this set of clothing to provoke other countries as the Akatsuki organization. Uchiha Itachi showed the red cloud cloak to everyone. Soga, are you going to create a terrorist action? I'm good at this, so I'll use my art to create panic. Deidara said excitedly. No, it's too low to do this. Uchiha Itachi shook his head and continued. Our actions are mainly aimed at the big figures in various countries. For example, the Kage, Daimyo, and Jinchuriki of each country. Only by doing this will they feel oppressed and enter a state of preparation for war. Uchiha Itachi paused and continued. Deidara, you and Orochimaru form a team and go to the Wind Country to assassinate the fourth Kage. Assassinate the fourth Kage. Orochimaru was stunned and frowned. He didn't expect Uchiha Itachi to be so radical. Yes, you heard it right. Uchiha Itachi nodded and continued. We are running low on funds. The deposit I gave you before has been used up. And the country we are in is remote and lacks materials. So we need to get the ability of the fourth Kage, kill him and get his body. We can use the impure world reincarnation to make him our mining tool. His magnetic gold dust technique can make us the most developed country. At the same time, Konoha and the Kingdom of Wind are the weakest at present. The death of the Kage of the Kingdom of Wind will prompt an alliance between the two countries. Soga, so. This. Orochimaru smiled and licked his lips with his long tongue. What about the Jinchuriki of the Wind Country? Do you want to catch him? No need. Uchiha Itachi said lightly. Leave the matter of Jinchuriki to Akatsuki. They will eventually collect the tailed beasts for the Moon Project. If we assassinate the Kage as Akatsuki, it will definitely intensify the conflict. When they lose even the last Jinchuriki, they will definitely fight to the death with Akatsuki. It is beneficial for us to keep this bait. I see. Orochimaru suddenly realized and admired Uchiha Itachi. Uchiha Itachi continued, there are currently 9 tailed beasts left, including Konoha's 9-tailed beast, Sand Village's 1-tailed beast, Rock Village's 4-tailed beast, Takigakure's 7-tailed beast, Mist Village's 6-tailed beast, and Cloud Village's 8-tailed beast. I will form a 3-man team with Kisame and Biwajuzo, and our goal is to capture the 8-tailed beast and the 4-tailed beast. The 8-tailed Jinchuriki and the 4th Raikage are as close as brothers. As long as the 8-tailed beast is successfully captured, the 4th Raikage will be furious and will fight Akatsuki to the death. And the Hidden Rock Village has already lost 5 tails. If the remaining 4 tails are captured, the old man Onoki will definitely be restless, and the Hidden Rock Village will be full of hostility towards Akatsuki. In this way, the alliance between the 4 major countries will have enough opportunities. Let the remaining tailed beasts be handed over to the Akatsuki organization, so that they can also gain some strength to fight against the alliance between the 4 major countries. In this way, the entire ninja world will enter a turbulent era, and we will reap the benefits. When the old order is broken, we can establish new rules and peace. Quote. The land of wind. The country seems vast, but it is actually a large desert. The environment here is harsh, with extremely low rainfall each year. Ordinary people can only live in a few oases. The environment of the sand village where the ninjas live is even worse. The village is located in a desert without an oasis. A circular earth wall is built around the village to protect it from the invasion of wind and sand, and it is also an important defensive fortification in the village. Orochimaru and Deidara are wearing hats and the red cloud cloaks of the Akatsuki organization, heading towards the sand village. At this time, in the Wind Shadow conference room of the Sand Village, a group of senior executives are having a meeting. At the round table, an elder named Garuru spoke. 4th Kage, you should know the existence of the Akatsuki organization. The so-called Akatsuki organization is a mysterious organization composed of a group of powerful ninjas, and the members of the organization are all vicious S-level criminals on the wanted list. According to reliable intelligence, the members include Uchiha Itachi, who was born in Konoha and once assassinated Konoha's high-ranking Danzo, Orochimaru, who is known as the 3 Ninjas of Konoha, and Biwajuzo, who was once a member of the 7 Ninja Swordsmen. These people are all powerful ninjas. It is rumored that they are collecting the power of the tailed beasts of various countries. Their purpose is unknown, but it is certain that they pose a huge threat to our Wind Country. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone at the round table was shocked. Soga, said an elder named Shaman, frowning as if he was thinking about something, I have heard of Akatsuki before, but those were just rumors. Where did you get the information from? Garuru continued, 3 months ago, news about Akatsuki was overwhelming, as if someone was deliberately spreading it. And we have confirmed with Konoha that the traitorous ninja Uchiha Itachi of Konoha has indeed joined Akatsuki. According to reliable information, the two-tailed Jinchuriki of the Hidden Cloud Village disappeared for no reason some time ago, and so did the five-tailed Jinchuriki of the Hidden Rock Village. So based on these circumstances, the news may be true. Even if it is half true and half false, we must take precautions in advance. As soon as Garuru finished speaking, he looked at the fourth cage with a sharp gaze. The fourth cage looked at him with cold eyes and said lightly, Garuru, what do you want to say? Garuru did not hesitate to say directly, the purpose of Akatsuki is to collect the tailed beasts, and the fourth cage, is it safe for you to put the power of Shukaku on a child? If Akatsuki sneaks into the village and kidnaps Gaara, he has no power to resist. What do you mean? The fourth cage frowned when he heard it. Garuru continued, I suggest that the power of Shukaku be placed on a more powerful ninja and be closely protected. As soon as he finished speaking, the atmosphere in the conference room became tense. Do you want to take my son's life? Garuru. The fourth cage's eyes were sharp and his voice was filled with anger. Lord Cage, this is just for the sake of the village. Garuru paused and continued, besides, haven't you always cultivated him as a monster in the village? You should be prepared for him to sacrifice for the village. With a bang, the fourth cage hit the table heavily, and the cup in front of him was shaken to the ground, making a crisp cracking sound. The meeting site fell into a dead silence. The fourth cage, without saying much, stood up and walked out of the meeting room. Sharuru's sharp eyes stared at his departing back. When everyone walked out of the meeting room, his body suddenly shook, as if some taboo in his body was opened. On the outskirts of the sand village, Orochimaru and Deidara stood in the wind and sand. They looked at the high defensive earth wall buildings of the sand village and stopped moving forward. Orochimaru took off his hat, looked at the high earth wall and said, Deidara, are you good at sneaking in? I'm not good at sneaking in, but I can fly over. Deidara answered. We will be exposed this way. Orochimaru shook his head. Our mission is to assassinate the fourth cage, not to go to war with the hidden sand village. Then do you have any good suggestions? Hee. Orochimaru smiled and said nothing. He bit his finger and quickly formed seals with both hands. Summoning technique. The next moment, Deidara felt a black screen in front of his eyes, as if he was swallowed by some animal. Hey, what's going on? Deidara felt sticky under his feet and felt uncomfortable all over. Orochimaru smiled and said, don't worry, we are in the snake's belly now, just be patient for a while. And in the moment just now in the sandstorm, Deidara and Orochimaru disappeared. Instead, a giant yellow python appeared. The giant python spit out its tongue, and its body kept shrinking until it became the size of a chopstick. Then it twisted its body and moved towards the direction of Shang village. As the sun set, the stars in the night sky emerged. A small snake emerged from the hole, and in an empty corner, it opened its mouth. The next moment, a hand slowly stretched out from the snake's mouth, and then a figure crawled out of the snake's mouth. He was covered with mucus, and it was Orochimaru. After a few seconds, the snake's body squirmed again, and Deidara's body was spit out from the snake's mouth again. Wow, so disgusting. Deidara looked at the mucus on his body and felt sick. At this moment, Ryusara's figure quietly appeared from behind them. Lord Orochimaru. Ryusara knelt on one knee in front of Orochimaru, then handed over a scroll and said respectfully, this is the detailed map of the sand village you asked for, please take a look. Hee. Thank you for your hard work. Orochimaru took the map, opened it and looked it up, then threw it to Deidara. Deidara took the map and asked in confusion, what's going on? How do you have subordinates from the sand village? Hee. Orochimaru smiled and said, this is the insider I planted in the sand village a long time ago. This dates back to before the Third Ninja War. Soga, that's it. Deidara nodded and said nothing more. He opened the map and observed it carefully, and closed the map after memorizing the key addresses. Orochimaru, we agreed before that I will carry out this mission and you will be responsible for the support. Orochimaru smiled and said, as long as you can complete the mission, I don't care. But you have to be careful, the other party is the fourth cage. HMPH, then you can enjoy my art. Deidara said, and the clay in his hand had been molded into this bird. Then he made a seal with his hand, and with a bang, the clay bird became huge. Deidara jumped on the bird's back and flew towards the center of the sand village. Deidara rode on a clay bird, hovering in the sky. Due to the strong wind and sand in the sand village, the visibility in the sky was not high, and it was difficult for anyone to find his figure in the darkness. Deidara had a smooth journey and soon arrived at the center of the sand village. This is the political center of the sand village. The fourth generation of Kazekage is likely to be here, but there are many guards here. Deidara looked around in the air, and after confirming the specific location of several guarding ninjas, he dropped several insect clay bombs. The bombs were very small, and they were tiny white spiders. The bomb spiders quietly climbed onto the heads of the guarding ninjas. Deidara saw that the time had come, and he made a seal in his hand. Bang, bang, bang. A few sounds, the bombs were instantly detonated, and several guarding ninjas were instantly killed. Hee hee. Seeing this, Deidara smiled. He landed from a high altitude, and after a few backflips, he landed in a handsome posture. Infiltration successful. He murmured to himself proudly, but the next moment, he was surprised that when he looked up, he saw the figure of the fourth cage. The wind and sand blew on the clothes of the two people, making a rustling sound. Wearing strange red cloud clothes, you must be a member of the Akatsuki organization, so far. The fourth cage folded his hands in front of his chest and said indifferently. Deidara showed an excited smile at the corner of his mouth. The appearance of the fourth cage saved him the time of searching. He didn't say anything, but just inserted his hand into the clay belt around his waist, and the mouth on his hand kept chewing the white clay. The fourth cage saw that he was moving, and he waved his hand directly, and a large amount of sand gold surged from around him and rushed towards Deidara. The clay bomb in Deidara's hand had not been molded yet, so he could only avoid the edge temporarily. He quickly jumped into the air and landed steadily on the clay bird hovering in the air. He had to hover in the air for a while, waiting for his artwork to take shape. The fourth cage did not give him time to wait. He waved his hand again, and the sand gold flew towards Deidara in the air as if it had life. In this way, the sand gold and Deidara circled in the air, forming a chase drama. Deidara controlled the clay bird to move flexibly, constantly avoiding the pursuit of the sand gold. But the sand gold seemed to be equipped with an automatic tracking navigation system, biting him closely behind. Moreover, there were many sand golds, which were divided from the original one into several groups. The difficulty of Deidara's avoidance increased greatly. Several times, he was almost wrapped by several groups of sand gold. It's really difficult. Deidara had a little cold sweat on his forehead. In order to buy time, he patted the clay bird. The next moment, the clay bird dived downwards and flew directly into the alley of the residential area. As the fourth cage, you should be careful with civilians. Deidara smiled. The clay bird kept shuttling through the alleys, and the wind and sand it blew down many civilians. What is that? The ninjas on land also noticed it, and they looked at Deidara's back and exclaimed. The next moment, a stream of gold sand chased after Deidara. What? As expected of the fourth cage, he can control the gold sand so accurately. Deidara looked back and exclaimed. He looked at the mouth he was chewing in his hand and muttered to himself, just a little bit more. At the moment when he was distracted, another stream of gold sand came towards him head-on, and the two streams of gold sand came one after the other, trying to trap Deidara in the middle. Deidara was startled, and he sensed the crisis. The clay bird immediately flapped its wings and rushed towards the sky. After the two streams of gold sand collided, they merged into a ball. Then it split into several groups, swooping upwards, chasing after Deidara. The fourth cage looked at the sky with a cold gaze, and waved his hand again, and several more golden sands shot up into the sky. As expected of the fourth cage, your strength is really good. Deidara's forehead was sweating more and more, and the pressure was getting greater and greater. As the number of golden sands increased, the space for the clay bird to move in the air became smaller and smaller. After several rounds of maneuvers, the golden sands formed a huge net in the air. Deidara had no room to escape, and the huge net formed by the golden sands wrapped all around him, and then quickly wrapped him up. The fourth cage clenched his fist, and the golden sands continued to shrink and squeeze inward. It's over. Just when the fourth cage thought that the victory was decided, countless tiny clay insects suddenly crawled out of the golden sands. Deidara made hand seals and shouted, "Crack!" Then the countless tiny clay insects began to explode, followed by a series of explosions. Nani? The fourth cage was startled. The sand gold slowly fell off with the series of explosions and lost its vitality. Deidara took this opportunity to escape from the encirclement of the scarf. The clay bird rushed out from an explosion gap. The fourth cage frowned, and with a wave of his left hand, a stream of sand gold formed a staircase. The fourth cage slowly stepped onto the stairs, and he walked into the sky, confronting Deidara. As expected of the fourth cage, he actually has such a special ability. Such heavy sand gold can be manipulated as flexibly as his hands. Deidara looked at the fourth cage standing in the air and said with a smile. "Your technique is not bad," the fourth cage said with a somewhat indifferent expression, "but since you are here, don't think about getting out alive. Sand Village is not a place that you, Akatsuki organization, can get involved in." As he said, the fourth cage waved his hands, and a large amount of sand gold surged from the ground and gathered in the air. What? Deidara was shocked, watching the large amount of gold sand rising into the sky, and was a little horrified. He sighed. The leader is right, the Sand Village is really full of sand sculptures. With such a huge gold reserve, as long as the economy is well developed, the Sand Village will surely be rich. He paused and continued to say to himself, but the opponent has the home advantage, and it is really tricky to occupy the advantageous terrain. The huge gold sand condensed into a giant hand in the air, and the giant hand was winding and grabbing towards Deidara. Seeing this, Deidara threw out a few C2 bombs. A series of explosions and roars directly blew off several fingers of the giant hand. But the giant hand was condensed from gold sand after all. After the collapse, it quickly condensed again, and it was intact again in a few seconds. It's really difficult. Deidara sighed softly. He looked down at the mouths of his palms, and then spit out several clay works in the shape of birds from the two mouths. Finally finished, come and feel my art. Deidara smiled and said coldly. The fun is about to begin. Deidara sneered. Then he controlled the clay bird and rushed towards the fourth cage. On the way, he encountered several interceptions. The golden sand controlled by the fourth cage split into several strands, turned into sharp claws, and attacked Deidara. Deidara threw out the clay bird he had just made. Whenever the claws were about to catch him, the clay bird would fly up and explode, defeating the claws made of golden sand. When Deidara's figure was about to approach the fourth cage, Deidara threw out several special clay birds. The birds had 4 wings and were extremely fast. In just a moment, they flew to the side of the fourth cage. This time the power is far better than before. Deidara muttered to himself, and he quickly formed seals with his hands. Crack! With his loud shout, the strange clay birds exploded directly beside the fourth cage. In an instant, flames shot up into the sky and thick smoke billowed. Fourth cage. The ninjas watching the battle below exclaimed. Thick smoke enveloped the fourth cage, and the situation was unclear. When the flames went out, the smoke was blown away by the wind and sand. Only a golden sphere appeared in front of everyone. The fourth cage controlled the golden sand and wrapped himself around. The shock wave of the explosion just now did not hurt him at all. Absolute defense made with golden sand. It's just like an egg protecting an egg, it looks impeccable. Deidara looked at the huge sphere and muttered to himself. He was thinking about countermeasures, and at this moment, the huge golden sphere grew countless long thorns. Spear of golden sand. The fourth cage whispered. The next moment, the long thorns shot out towards Deidara's body like spears, densely packed like a rain of arrows. Deidara was shocked. He controlled the clay bird to dodge quickly. But because the bird was too big, the golden sands flew densely and pierced the bird's body in a few strokes. Having lost his mount in the air, Deidara was forced to land from the air. At this moment, a giant claw made of golden sands attacked his body and grabbed his body. Countless golden sands came from all directions and covered Deidara's body in an instant. In just a moment, Deidara's body was wrapped in golden sands into a huge sphere. It's over, you are worthy of being the fourth cage. The ninjas watching below exclaimed and celebrated their victory. The next moment, with a bang, the huge sphere wrapped around Deidara exploded violently, and a large gap was blown out of the golden sphere. Deidara's figure rushed out of the thick smoke and fell freely to the ground. The fourth cage waved his hand, and soon the golden sand followed. In the air, Deidara lost his footing and could not move. Soon a stream of golden sand caught up with him. The golden sand wrapped around Deidara's ankles and threw him back into the ball of golden sand that had just wrapped him. When his body approached the ball, the huge ball suddenly opened. Like a beast opening its bloody mouth, revealing its sharp fangs, it wanted to swallow Deidara into its stomach. Deidara was horrified, and he quickly threw out several clay bombs from his hands. A series of explosions sounded, and the bombs directly defeated the golden sand. Deidara pinched out a giant bird again, and he rode the giant bird out of the smoke and golden sand. Just when he thought he had escaped, the defeated golden sand regrouped again, turning into dozens of thick tentacles, chasing Deidara. What annoying sand! Deidara gritted his teeth. He controlled the giant bird and kept dodging in the air. But what he didn't expect was that when he escaped, a golden sand as thin as a hair had already wrapped around his left hand. The golden sand ball wrapped around the fourth cage spread out, and the fourth cage sneered. Deidara was delighted to see the fourth cage take the initiative to remove the absolute defense. He controlled the clay giant bird to dive towards the fourth cage again. And at this moment, the golden thread wrapped around his arm came into play. This is the purest gold, without sand mixed in, and it is extremely tough. The golden thread pulled Deidara's arm and directly restricted Deidara's movements. Nani? Deidara was shocked. At this moment, several golden sand tentacles had already attacked his body. This time, the golden sand turned into spikes, trying to penetrate Deidara's body completely. Deidara gritted his teeth, but he still couldn't get rid of the golden thread. At this critical moment, Deidara gritted his teeth and released a clay centipede directly from the mouth of his palm. The moment the earth centipede crawled out, it directly wrapped around Deidara's arm and then exploded. Deidara's left hand was blown off, and he escaped from the dead. Surviving with a broken arm. You have such courage. The fourth cage watched Deidara escape in a panic and couldn't help but praise him. You forced me to this point, then don't blame me for indiscriminate attacks. Deidara looked at the blood flowing from his arm, and his expression became extremely fierce. He inserted his right hand into the clay bag, and the mouth in his right hand bit the clay in big mouthfuls. When the mouth of his right hand ate up the clay in a clay bag, Deidara pulled his right hand out. Try my giant C3 bomb. As a cage, your sand is to protect the villagers or yourself. Deidara raised his right hand high, and then spit out two strange birds from his right mouth. The stomachs of these two strange birds were very huge, and they became several times larger the moment they appeared. Then the two big birds attacked in two directions, one flew towards the ninjas on the ground, and the other rushed towards the fourth cage. No, scatter. The fourth cage realized the danger and shouted immediately. Then he controlled the golden sand to wrap himself again. Obviously, he knew that Deidara wanted to put him in a dilemma, but he did not choose to protect the civilians on the ground. This is the consciousness of a generation of heroes. I would rather let the world down than let the world let me down. Deidara couldn't help cursing when he saw this. If that's the case, then they're going to suffer. As soon as he finished speaking, a burst of explosions sounded. The C3 bomb that arrived first hit the fourth cage's defensive sphere directly. Under the violent destructive force of the explosion, countless golden sands fell off, but it was obvious that the fourth cage himself was not injured. Another C3 bomb dived downwards, and the ninjas below were terrified. Before they could escape, the bomb was about to explode in the air. At this moment, a giant python suddenly appeared from nowhere and swallowed the C3 bomb directly into its stomach. Orochimaru stood on the head of the giant snake, releasing the lightning escape in his hand, and the C3 bomb did not explode in the stomach of the giant snake. Deidara, You are too reckless, our purpose is not to start a war here. With the appearance of Orochimaru, the whole battlefield changed. When Deidara saw Orochimaru easily dissolve his C3 bomb, his expression became a little ugly. Orochimaru used thunder release to turn the clay bomb into a dumb bomb. He knew clearly that Orochimaru had mastered the secret of his number. Before this, the two had never fought each other. How did he know his information? Deidara thought, and the figure of Uchiha Itachi appeared in his mind. Sure enough, he joined a terrible organization. Deidara sighed in his heart. He looked at Orochimaru and said with some dissatisfaction, Hey, Orochimaru, it's agreed that I will complete this mission. Why did you suddenly intervene? Hee. Orochimaru laughed gloomily. Did you forget the leader's order? Don't make too much noise. There are still some great old people in this village. Let's join forces and fight quickly. Tisk. Deidara sneered at Orochimaru's words. He thought, as the weakest of the 5 great nations, what other powerful fighting power can the Wind Country have besides the Wind Shadow? However, he did lose an arm, and there was not much clay left in the other bag. Deidara thought for a while and said, in that case, let's join forces. You are responsible for restraining him and I will kill him with one blow. The 4th Wind Shadow also noticed the appearance of Orochimaru. He unlocked the absolute defense of the golden sand and looked at Orochimaru standing on the giant snake in the sky. His expression became more and more solemn. The legendary Konoha Sannin, Orochimaru, you are indeed a member of the Akatsuki organization. He paused and continued, is your goal the one-tailed Shukaku? In that case, then leave your 2 bodies here. As soon as he finished speaking, the golden sand surrounding him was ready to attack. Orochimaru looked at the 4th cage and said with a smile, being able to control the golden sand, it must be the same magnetic escape technique as the 3rd cage. I really want to know, both of them are magnetic escape techniques, the 3rd cage who controls the sand and iron or you who controls the golden sand, who is stronger? As he spoke, Orochimaru quickly formed seals with both hands. Spiritual summoning technique. A coffin with 3 characters engraved on it slowly emerged, the lid of the coffin opened, and the figure of the 3rd cage walked out of the coffin. What is this? Seeing this, the 4th cage's pupils trembled, and he was horrified. 3rd cage. How could this be? The 3rd cage has been missing for many years, how could you? The 4th cage exclaimed, his voice full of disbelief. Don't be surprised, the 4th cage. Orochimaru inserted a kunai wrapped with a spell into the 4th cage's head, and then said, this is my impure world reincarnation technique. I summoned him from the underworld. Now he is just my puppet. After saying that, Orochimaru made a seal, and a burst of white smoke came out of the 3rd cage who was reincarnated by the impure world reincarnation. The eyes of the 3rd cage instantly revived from the death taboo. Orochimaru, are you summoning me? The 3rd cage said after he had his own consciousness. He looked around and suddenly felt the familiar environment around him. Is this Sand Village? The 3rd cage was stunned for a moment. At this time, the 4th cage called out to him loudly, 3rd cage. The 3rd cage was stunned when he heard it, and looked up at the sky. Are you Rasa? Orochimaru, you dare. Before he finished speaking, he saw that the seal in Orochimaru's hand changed. Now is not the time to reminisce about the past. Orochimaru said coldly. The next moment, the reincarnated 3rd cage made seals with his hands, and he lost the consciousness to control his body. Sand Iron Rain. Countless black metal powders emerged from the 3rd cage's body, and they gathered into thin needles and stabbed at the 4th cage's body at a high speed. Magnetic style. Iron Sand, it is indeed the 3rd cage. The 4th cage frowned, and he controlled the surrounding golden sand to form a thick sand wall in front of him. The iron needle was inserted into the sand wall and was blocked. The 4th cage waved his hand, and the surrounding golden sand split into several strands, attacking Orochimaru. Orochimaru stood on the snake without moving, and the reincarnated 3rd cage controlled the iron sand to resist. In the sky, the golden sand and the black iron sand collided with each other. The two forces confronted each other, and it was difficult to tell who was who for a while. Deidara rode on the clay bird, and his other arm had already made a clay bomb. Taking advantage of the gap between the third and fourth cage's battle, he threw several clay bird bombs to attack. Violent explosions echoed in the air, the battle intensified. Inside a building, Chio was fishing by a pond, her eyes closed, as if she had fallen asleep. Just then, a ninja ran in a panic, and he said anxiously, "It's not good, Chio, there are enemies attacking the village, the fourth generation cage is in a tough battle, and the third generation cage who has disappeared for many years has appeared." Chio, who was still dozing off a second ago, suddenly opened her eyes when she heard it. Third generation cage, she muttered to herself, and then put down the fishing rod in her hand. "Let's go, lead the way." On the other side, after a big battle, the fourth generation cage was defeated. His body was blown all over, and before he lost consciousness, he used up all his chakra to transport the sand gold out of the village. During the battle, he would not deliberately protect civilians, but after he was defeated, he would still use his last strength to protect the village. Gaara. At the last moment before he closed his eyes, he called out the name of his youngest son. From the moment Gaara became the village's Jinchuriki, he no longer regarded him as his son. In his eyes, Gaara was just a tool to protect the village. At the last moment of his life, he regained a trace of conscience as a father, but it was too late. It's finally over. The fourth cage is really tricky. Deidara controlled the clay bird to catch the fourth cage. He lost an arm and his body was covered with scars. At this time, Orochimaru was also standing on the bird, and the two were about to leave. Wait. Just at this time, Grandma Chio and a group of ninjas came. Is it finally here? Orochimaru looked at the figure of the hunchbacked old man and took out a scroll from his arms and threw it over. Grandma Chio, be careful. The ninjas of the sand village were like frightened birds, terrified. Only Chio took the scroll calmly. Before she could read it, Orochimaru's voice rang out. Old lady, take away the shadow of your village and leave some information that you are interested in as compensation. The scroll is about your grandson. What? Chio was shocked when she heard it. Orochimaru smiled and motioned Deidara to leave. The ninjas of the sand village below adjusted their bows and crossbows and fired arrows at the same time. An explosion sounded in the sky, like a gorgeous firework blooming. Dark clouds covered the sky, thunder and lightning flashed in the sky, and a bolt of lightning fell, illuminating the figures of two people. Kisame held Samahata in his hand and confronted a little old man. He was a ninja from the Hidden Rock Village, the Four Tails Jinchuriki, Old Purple. Strange red cloud clothing, the scratch of the traitor on the forehead guard, you are really a member of the Akatsuki organization. Old Purple looked at Kisame with a serious expression. Hee. Kisame smiled, are you still in the mood to care about my identity? Soga, then die. Old Purple roared, and then threw out a rapid-fire shuriken. The shuriken passed through the air, and Kisame easily blocked it with Samahata. Old Purple took this opportunity, and his figure quickly rushed towards Kisame, and he quickly formed seals with both hands. Lava release. Burning river rock technique. Several lava fireballs flew out from his side and attacked Kisame. There was a series of explosions and bursts of white smoke. In front of Kisame stood a water wall, blocking the attack of the lava fireball. The hot lava fireball was extinguished by water and bursts of steam came out. It seems that you are a ninja who is good at water escape, which happens to be my nemesis. In this case, how about trying this technique? Lao Zi put his hands together and shouted. On his body, a layer of transparent tailed beast coat emerged, and behind his buttocks there were four tails swaying in the wind. Did you turn into a tailed beast directly? You are worthy of being a perfect Jinchuriki. Seeing this, Kisame smiled. It's not over yet. Lao Zi shouted, and then his whole body suddenly turned red. His body was like being covered by a thick layer of magma, and the scorching high temperature caused the surrounding air to begin to distort. Your whole body has turned into magma. With such a high temperature, it seems that ordinary water jutsu cannot be used. Kisame sneered and clasped his hands together. Water jutsu. Great explosion water wave. Then, a large amount of water gushed out of Kisame's mouth. In just a moment, the surrounding area was covered with a large amount of water. The surging water pushed Kisame up several meters, and the rolling water splashed layer by layer, and the waves were turbulent. Kisami's water jutsu created a small lake. The water spread to Lao Zi's feet, and bursts of water vapor rose. Such a large-scale water shield is really spectacular. It seems that you are not just good at talking. Lao Zi stood on the water, and the high temperature under his feet made the water boil. Just surrender and avoid unnecessary pain. Kisame held Samahata in his hand. Samahata, wrapped in bandages, felt the chakra of the tailed beast begin to stir. Lao Zi looked at Kisame, his eyes full of vigilance and determination. He took a deep breath, and the magma on his body seemed to surge even more violently. Humph, you want me to surrender? You're just dreaming. Old Z roared, waved his hands, and manipulated the surrounding magma to form huge fireballs, which hit Kisame like a meteor. Kisame moved flexibly on the water, waving the Samahata in his hand, breaking up the incoming magma fireballs one by one. The hot magma came into contact with the cold lake water, making a sizzling sound, and steam filled the air. Water style. Water dragon bullet technique. Kisame formed seals with his hands, and a huge water dragon rose from the lake and rushed towards Old Z with its fangs and claws bared. Old Z was not in a hurry, and manipulated the magma to form a solid barrier in front of him. The water dragon hit it and instantly turned into countless water drops and fell. You have some skills, but not enough. Lao Zi shouted, and the tailed beast chakra on his body quickly condensed, and a powerful force burst out. He entered the second state of the tailed beast, and the bones of the tailed beast had grown on his body. He stepped on the water fiercely, and the whole person rushed towards Kisame like a cannonball. Samahata felt the huge chakra surge, and the bandages wrapped around him suddenly burst, revealing his true face. This is the first time that Samahata is so excited. I'm afraid Samahata can't consume such a huge amount of chakra. Kisami's face was full of smiles. He did not avoid it. When Lao Zi's body rushed over quickly, he directly hit Kisami's body. The huge impact force directly knocked Kisame dozens of meters away. Kisami's body was like a water float, sliding on the water for a distance before stopping. As expected of a Jinchuriki, the power is so huge. Kisami's mouth was bleeding, and his body was covered with burns. A big hole was knocked out of his abdomen, and his ribs were visible through the blood. But this time Samahata is full. Kisame smiled, and the Samahata on his hand expanded several times. Under the previous collision, Samahata also took the opportunity to devour a large amount of Lao Zi's tailed beast chakra. What? Lao Zi frowned, he felt the changes in his body, and only one of the four tails behind him remained. At this time, Samahata's handle suddenly became longer, like it was growing up Kisami's arm. A large amount of chakra flowed into Kisami's body through Samahata's handle, and Kisami's wounds were recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. What is that? That weapon actually has healing power. Old Purple looked at the scene in front of him, sweating coldly. The stronger the opponent, the stronger I am. I will never get tired or fall down. Kisame took off his cloak and stood up slowly. Old Purple watched Samahata shrink after inputting chakra into Kisame, and realized something. Soga, does that weapon devour other people's chakra and then convert it into other people's energy? You're right, so I'm called the tailed beast without a tail. Kisame said, clasping his hands together. Water style. Great explosion water wave. This time Kisame spewed a lot of water from his mouth again, and in an instant, everything around was covered by water. Lao Zi's body seemed to fall into a deep river. The high temperature on his body made the surrounding water boil and bubble constantly. The longer you stay in the water, the worse it will be for you. Your rock escape will be cooled by the water. What should you do? Kisame sneered at Lao Zi. The next moment, his body began to merge with Samahata. When Samahata perfectly merged into his body, Kisame turned into a half-man, half-fish form. I have no chance of winning in the water. I have to leave here quickly. Lao Zi gritted his teeth and thought to himself. He condensed a large amount of chakra to wrap his body again. And at this moment, Kisami's figure was like a ghost, and he rushed in front of him in an instant. Kisame turned into a fish, using his flexibility in the water to continuously impact Lao Zi's body. Every collision would devour a large amount of chakra from Lao Zi's body. After dozens of rounds of collisions, Lao Zi's chakra was almost drained and he fainted. Lao Zi was defeated, and the gray sky was about to rain heavily. Uchiha Itachi and Biwa Juzo walked slowly with hats on their heads. As expected of the master of Samahata, he can even easily defeat the four-tailed Jinchuriki. Biwa Juzo threw a hat to Kisame with a smile on his face. Kisame took it casually and said lightly, "It's not easy to capture him alive. I spent a lot of effort. The four-tailed Jinchuriki with lava release is not a good guy. You don't fight him directly, so you naturally can't understand my hard work." As soon as he finished speaking, raindrops fell from the sky. It's raining. Uchiha Itachi looked up at the sky. It seems that the rain will get heavier and heavier. Find a place to hide from the rain. While the Jinchuriki is still alive, hurry up and extract his tailed beast chakra. The three walked into a cave, which was the address they had chosen early. The first thing to do after capturing the Jinchuriki alive is to quickly extract his tailed beast from the seal. If the Jinchuriki dies, the tailed beast will disappear immediately. It will take more than 10 years for the tailed beast to revive, so Uchiha Itachi will naturally not give up such an opportunity. Several bonfires were lit in the stone room, and Uchiha Itachi took off his clothes, revealing his perfect figure. Kisame, Biwa Juzo, you go to the cave entrance to protect me, and then I will absorb the chakra of the four-tailed beast. The two nodded, looked at each other and walked out. Uchiha Itachi looked down at the dying old purple. He sat cross-legged, and then formed a seal with his hands, and the bone structure of Susanoo appeared. Next, I have to enter the sage mode first, and use the sage body to resist the impact of the tailed beast's chakra. I have sealed the yin and yang halves of the three-tailed and five-tailed in my body. I don't know if I can still withstand the power of the four-tailed beast. Uchiha Itachi muttered to himself. The next moment, he put his hands together, and the cells all over his body began to stir, constantly absorbing the surrounding chakra. The endless natural power poured into the cave, and Kisame, who had Samahata, noticed something strange and his eyelids jumped. I feel a stream of energy gathering into the cave, this is. Biwa Juzo smiled. This is Itachi's technique, and the secrets in him are deeper than the sea. Soga, so that's it. Kisame nodded. Inside the cave, the bonfire kept swaying from side to side. Uchiha Itachi closed his eyes tightly, and his body began to change. His muscles swelled slightly, and the lines became more obvious. His body was covered with dragon scales, and a pair of dragon horns grew on his head. He entered the perfect sage mode. Zi, Cho, Yin, Mao, Chen, Si, Wu, Wei, Shen, Yu, Shu, Hai, Bagua seal. Uchiha Itachi made a seal with both hands, and then a vortex-shaped figure appeared on his abdomen, with various dense runes extending on the figure. He entered his own consciousness space. In his body, he saw the sealed cage, in which the three-tailed and five-tailed were tied up with several chains. The appearance of Uchiha Itachi caused a commotion among the two-tailed beasts. They struggled and roared at Uchiha Itachi, and the air around them was rippling. Be quiet. Uchiha Itachi covered his ears, and then he activated Koto Amatsukami and directly hypnotized the two-tailed beasts. When the three-tailed and five-tailed were completely quiet, Uchiha Itachi opened the sealed cage. In the real world, the vortex runes on Uchiha Itachi's abdomen began to rotate. Then his 10-fist sword slowly stretched out from the vortex and stabbed directly into Lao Zi's body. He wanted to use the 10-fist sword as a bridge, and use the 10-fist sword's absorption seal power to absorb the four-tailed chakra into his body. When the 10-fist sword pierced Lao Zi's body, a surge of chakra slowly flowed into Uchiha Itachi's body along with the 10-fist sword. Uchiha Itachi frowned in pain. His body was constantly repelled by the violent chakra of the four-tailed. The huge pain made his back sweat, but he still gritted his teeth and persisted. Although the three-tailed and five-tailed in his body were controlled by Koto Amatsukami, they would still instinctively release a large amount of chakra under the impact of the four-tailed chakra. The chakras of the three-tailed beasts with different attributes collided with each other in Uchiha Itachi's body, constantly destroying Uchiha Itachi's body. This was a risky move, and he would die if he was not careful. Fortunately, Uchiha Itachi's body had been strengthened by the dragon pool, and his physical strength was no longer the same as before. With the blessing of the sage mode, his body's recovery ability is comparable to that of Hashirama's cells. The body that had just been damaged was immediately repaired. As more and more chakra poured into Uchiha Itachi's body, his body began to swell. The huge chakra almost broke his body, but Uchiha Itachi still bit, gritting his teeth and holding on. Time passed by minute, and Uchiha Itachi's forehead was covered with sweat. During this period, his body experienced several expansions, and the three-tailed beast's chakras entangled in his body, making him miserable. But relying on his own powerful repair ability, Uchiha Itachi still endured it. When the last trace of the four-tailed chakra was absorbed into the body, a giant ape with four tails took shape in the cage. The moment it took shape, it regained its self-consciousness. At that moment, it let out a shocking roar and kept hitting its chest with its fists. Alas, sure enough, you are noisier than them. Uchiha Itachi sighed. Then he activated Koto Amatsukami again to control it, and countless chakras turned into chains to entangle and bind him. After doing all this, Uchiha Itachi closed the seal. He slowly opened his eyes and let out a long sigh. It's finally over, let's go outside and try the ability of the four-tailed. He stood up and slowly walked out of the cave. Biwa Juzo and Kisame noticed something and looked back. Is it over? Biwa Juzo asked. Yeah. Uchiha Itachi nodded and said, let's go outside. I want to try the power of the new ninjutsu. The three walked out of the cave and came to an open place. You two use water shields to attack me. Uchiha Itachi said lightly. Biwa Juzo and Kisame looked at each other and quickly formed seals with their hands. The two said in unison, water style, water dragon bullet technique. Two water dragons spewed out from their mouths and rushed towards Uchiha Itachi. Uchiha Itachi calmly formed a seal with one hand. Fire style, great fireball technique. A huge fireball spewed out of his mouth. When the fireball collided with the two water dragons, a large amount of water vapor evaporated with a hiss. Uchiha Itachi borrowed the chakra of the four-tailed beast, and the core of the fireball was high-temperature lava. The water escape only extinguished the flames on the surface, and the huge lava ball was still moving forward. The two water dragons retreated step by step, and were about to attack Kisame and Biwa Juzo. The two of them looked at each other and quickly retreated to the side. Then there was an explosion, and the magma inside the fireball splashed everywhere. What a terrible technique, comparable to the blood limit. Biwa Juzo muttered to himself as he looked at the power of the fireball. Kisame also had cold sweat on his forehead, and looked at Uchiha Itachi in front of him with a serious expression. At this time, the dark clouds in the sky dissipated, and Uchiha Itachi looked up at the sky. The rain has stopped, it's time to set off, to the hidden cloud village. Uchiha Itachi, Kisame, and Biwa Juzo continued their journey after a short rest, heading towards the land of lightning. Along the way, Uchiha Itachi kept thinking about the tailed beasts. After absorbing the four tails, he vaguely felt the limit of the 8 trigrams seal. Although it was the super strong sealing technique of the Uzumaki clan, it was still difficult to withstand the power of the three-tailed beasts. If it weren't for Uchiha Itachi's super strong physique, anyone else would have exploded and died. According to the plan made before, the purpose of going to the land of lightning at this time is to capture the 8 tails. Plunder the most important resources of the land of lightning is the Akatsuki organization, thereby causing a dispute between the land of lightning and the Akatsuki organization. From the current situation analysis, Orochimaru and Deidara have succeeded. After losing the cage, the Sand Village will definitely lower its status and form an alliance with Konoha. After the Rock Shadow Village lost the 4-tailed and 5-tailed Jinchuriki in succession, the Old Man Onoki will also take action. The last step that prompted the 4 major countries to form an alliance to deal with the Akatsuki organization was to capture the 8 tails. But from the current situation, Uchiha Itachi could not absorb the power of the 8 tails. Without full confidence, Uchiha Itachi would not take risks. And if the action was simply to capture the 8 tails alive and imprison it, for them, it would always be an invisible bomb. The intelligence organizations of the 4 major countries are spread all over the ninja world. If their disguise as Akatsuki is discovered, the conflict between the 4 major countries will turn to Uchiha Itachi. Uchiha Itachi was thinking about weighing the pros and cons. At this time, a falcon flew over with intelligence, and Uchiha Itachi and the other 3 stopped moving forward. Uchiha Itachi opened the secret letter and read it carefully. The content of the letter was that Orochimaru found a huge gold mine in the country of fields through the impure world reincarnation of the fourth cage, and was currently working on mining. At the end of the letter, it was written that Akatsuki organization leader Pain personally went to Takigakure village to capture the Seven Tails Jinchuriki. This news has begun to spread to various countries after being spread by their intelligence organization. After reading the contents of the letter, Uchiha Itachi smiled, and he had already thought of a plan in his mind. He burned the letter, and then said to Kisame and Biwa Juzo, I have a new plan for this arrest operation. The Land of Lightning, Kumogakure Village. Gurgle gurgle. An elite ninja from Kumogakure Village had a ball of water covering his head. He struggled hard and was about to suffocate. Just when he was about to faint, Kisame waved his hand to break the water ball. Cough 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 cough. The elite ninja from Kumogakure village coughed violently. He had just taken a few breaths of fresh air when Kisame grabbed his neck. Tell me, where is the Eight Tails Jinchuriki? The elite ninja of the Hidden Cloud village struggled hard, and a feeling of suffocation came again, but he still clenched his teeth and did not reveal any information. Don't underestimate our ninjas of the Hidden Cloud village. I won't tell you any information. Really? Kisame showed an evil smile at the corner of his mouth. He pulled out a dagger and gestured on the ninja's face. I am very good at forcing confessions. Are you sure you can endure the pain that follows? Hee. The elite ninja had no fear on his face. He looked at Kisame with a provocative look and said, the ninjas of the Hidden Cloud village will never betray their partners. Even if you kill me now, I will not reveal any information. He spat at Kisame as he said this. You dare. Kisame was furious and was about to raise his knife to end his life. Uchiha Itachi reached out to stop him. Leave it to me. Uchiha Itachi said. His eyes began to change, and 3 Magatama appeared. Just one glance, and the elite ninja lost his mind. His pupils dilated, and there was no expression on his face. Let him go, he has been hit by Itachi's illusion. Biwa Juzo said to Kisame lightly. Kisame heard and let go, and the elite ninja of the Hidden Cloud village fell to the ground helplessly. Tell me the whereabouts of the 8th Wizrabi. Uchiha Itachi said coldly, as if he was giving some kind of order. Under the illusion, the elite ninja of the Hidden Cloud village muttered in a trance, he is practicing in Cloud Thunder Valley. So that's it, it's really in that place. Uchiha Itachi nodded, and then strode forward. The Cloud Thunder Valley is located in countless stone peaks. The peaks here are towering into the clouds, rising from the sea level, very spectacular. Among the countless peaks in a low peak, Kurabi was holding a pen, writing and drawing on a notebook. He was passionately creating and making full preparations for the next concert. He couldn't help singing while writing. Yo! This is aka the god of rap, Kurabi. Yunlei Canyon is my place of practice. Holding a pen, I write my thoughts on the notebook. Use music to show the truth in my heart. I am the Eight Tails Jinchuriki, and my strength is unmatched. But I am not just a fighting machine. I have my attitude, and my music is my weapon. My big brother wants to bury my music here. Listen carefully. No one can ban my music. I will use my rap to make them all fall to the ground. My lyrics are like a storm, impacting everyone's heart. My rhythm is like thunder, making you restless. I am Kurabi, I represent freedom and passion. Never giving up is my confidence, and rap is my mission. So, come on. Come and listen to my secret. Let us release our true selves in music. I will use my music to shock you. This is me, Kurabi, the god of rap in Yunlei Canyon. Yo. Perfect. Kurabi danced with joy. He created a song that he was quite satisfied with. Today I will reward myself with a sukiyaki meal. I want to eat spicy octopus. He muttered to himself, and the 8-tailed beast in his body was speechless. Just then, a breeze blew, and the figures of Uchiha Itachi, Biwa Juzo, and Hoshigaki Kisame emerged. They were walking slowly towards Kurabi. Are you the 8-tailed Jinchuriki Kurabi? The crappy rap is indeed the level of practicing for 2.5 years. Uchiha Itachi said lightly. Thanks for watching.